Hello friends, this is 1 year plan for UPSC CSE 2023 part 2. In part 1, we have discussed that there are two categories of students. One can study the same subject for a week, 10 days or 5 days. And there are other categories of students who get bored by the same subject and they study in different slots for different subjects. This plan is for those students who like to study different subjects on the same day. Everyone is going to start their prelims as well as the mains preparation from the month of July. In the month of July, one can start with GS paper 1. In the first week, one can do basic NCERTs of ancient and medieval in the first slot and basic NCERTs of geography in the second slot. In the second week, one can do basic NCERTs of art and culture in the first slot. And in the second slot, one can study basic NCERTs of geography. In the third week, one can do basic NCERTs of history in slot 1 and basic NCERTs of geography in slot 2. One can start with map reading also. In the fourth week, one can start with basic NCERTs of history in slot 1. In slot 2, one can do basic NCERTs of geography and map reading. For beginners, they have to start reading newspaper. One can refer to The Hindu or Indian Express according to their suitability. In the beginning, we will not understand the editorials, but we have to read them as it will help us in essay. In the month of August, one can cover NCERTs of GS paper 2, 3 and optional. In the first week, one can do basic NCERTs of polity in the first slot, and in the second slot, one can do basic NCERTs of economics. In the second week, one can do basic NCERTs of environment in slot 1 and basic NCERTs of optional in slot 2. In the third week, one has to revise all the NCERTs of GS paper 1, 2, 3 and optional, as well as one can give test based on NCERTs. There are two types of mock test. One is textbook based and other is subject based. One can purchase the test series according to their suitability. Make sure that you have at least one mock test in the month of August. In the fourth week, one can revise the NCERTs and give the mock test. One has to do daily current affairs plus current affair magazine. There are many current affair magazines available in the market, but one has to stick to the same magazine throughout the year. In the month of September, one can do standard book for GS paper 1 and optional. In the first week, one can do standard book for art and culture in slot 1 and standard book of geography in slot 2. One has to give two mock tests also. In the second week, one can do standard book of modern Indian history in slot 1 and standard book of geography in slot 2. One has to give one mock test also for modern Indian history. In the third week, one can continue with standard book of modern Indian history in slot 1 and optional paper 1 in slot 2. One has to give one mock test on modern Indian history also. In the fourth week, one can revise the GS paper 1, continue with optional in slot 2 and can give one mock test on GS paper 1. One has to do daily current affairs plus current affairs magazine. In October, one can finish standard book of GS paper 2, 3 and optional paper 1. In the first week, one can do standard book of polity in slot 1, optional paper 1, standard book in slot 2 and can perform two mock tests on polity also. In the second week, one can do standard book of polity in slot 1 and standard book for optional paper 1 in slot 2. One can perform 2 mock tests on polity also. In the third week, one can do standard book of polity in slot 1 and standard book of environment in slot 2. One can perform 2 mock tests also, one on polity and one on environment. In the fourth week, one can do standard book of polity in slot 1 and standard book of environment in slot 2. One can perform 2 mock tests on each subject. As finishing Lakshmikant will be a tedious job, that's why the whole month of October we have to give 1 slot every day to Lakshmikant. One has to do daily current affairs plus current affairs magazine. In the month of November, one can finish standard book of GS paper 3 and optional. In the first week, one can do standard book of economics in slot 1 and standard book of optional paper 2 in slot 2. One can give 2 mock tests also. In the second week, one can do standard book of economics in slot 1 and standard book of optional paper 2 in slot 2. One can perform 1 mock test on economics also. In the third week, one can do agriculture in slot 1 and optional paper 2 standard book in slot 2. One can perform 1 mock test on agriculture also. In the fourth week, one can do science and tech in slot 1 and optional paper 2 standard book in slot 2. One can perform 1 mock test in science and tech also. One has to do daily current affairs plus current affairs magazine. In the month of December, one can start with answer writing. In the first week, one can do post-independence India in slot 1 and art and culture revision in slot 2. One can perform 1 mock test on art and culture also, plus revision of given mock test and answer writing on art and culture. In the second week, one can do international relations in slot 1, ancient and medieval revision in slot 2. One can perform 1 mock test on ancient and medieval also. One has to revise the given mock test as well as one can write answers also. In the third week, one can do world history in slot 1 and one can do modern Indian history revision in slot 2. One can perform 2 mock tests on modern Indian history also. One can write answers on modern Indian history. In the fourth week, one can do governance in slot 1 and geography revision in slot 2. One can perform 1 mock test on full GS paper 1 and one can write answers also. One has to do daily current affairs plus current affairs magazine. In the month of January, one can revise GS paper 2 and 3. In the first week, one can do internal security in slot 1 and polity revision in slot 2. One can perform 2 mock tests on polity also. In the second week, one can do disaster management in slot 1 and revision of polity in slot 2. One can perform 2 mock tests on polity also. In the third week, one can do society in slot 1 and revision of economics in slot 2. One can perform 2 mock tests on economics also. In the fourth week, one has to revise post-independence India, world history, governance, internal security, society, disaster management, and international relations. One has to revise environment also. One can perform full simulation mock test on GS paper 3. One has to do daily current affairs plus current affairs magazine. In this month, your answer writing should have been improved than the last month. One has to start CSAT preparation also. In the month of February, one can revise GS paper 1 2, 3 and optional paper 1. In the first week, one can revise GS paper 1 in slot 1, optional paper 1 in slot 2, mock test, CSET and answer writing. In the second week, one can revise GS paper 2 in slot 1 and optional paper 1 in slot 2. One can perform mock test also. In the third week, one can revise GS paper 2 in first slot and optional paper 1 in slot 2. One can perform CSAT test and mock test. In the fourth week, one can revise GS paper 3 in slot 1 and optional paper 1 in slot 2. One can perform mock test and CSAT. One has to do answer writing on optional paper also. One has to do daily current affairs plus current affairs magazine. If one get time, he can study ethics also, as well as previous year question paper of mains. In the month of March, April and May, one has to revise GS paper 1, 2 and 3. One has to give mock test on alternate day and CSAT test. Make sure that you have performed the mock test on the timing on which you are going to write the prelims paper. It means GS paper 1 in the morning session and CSAT paper in the afternoon session. All the best for your preparation. Like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.